Good afternoon, everyone. In today's video, we are again looking at the storm that's going to be bringing a historic high storm to portions of the Ohio Valley region, going into the Northeast and also the upper Midwest. We'll see a lot of snowfall with an additional threat of severe weather down in the South going from Tuesday into Friday. A lot of models now have their eyes set on this storm, especially the ice storm here that's going to be going across this area from Iowa into northern Illinois, going to northern Indiana, northern Ohio, southern Michigan, and even into Pennsylvania and New York. Could see a lot of this ice, which could be catastrophic to power lines and poles, trees, and any high hanging objects. Could be very well damaged from this ice storm that's going to be going. It's going to be kind of starting around early Wednesday, going throughout early Thursday. We will see that ice storm go throughout these areas here. And then don't forget about that snowstorm. And don't forget about that snowstorm up here. It's going to bring up to 2 feet of snowfall to some places across Minnesota and South Dakota. Let's time this out for you. This is the 18Z GFS run. And as we head here, we can see it starts to make its appearance late tonight. This is going to be overnight hours. You start to see some of that snowfall, a little low pressure there that starts to move southeast here, dive into the Dakotas and bring some snowfall there overnight. And as we head throughout 6 p.m. of Tuesday, a lot of that snowfall starts to move into Minnesota, Wisconsin, going into Michigan. We start to see a lot of rainfall forming here in the early morning hours of Wednesday, and a lot of snowfall there going throughout the Rockies for early Wednesday as well. We start to move here, and this is when the ice is really going to form up here around midday of Wednesday. We're going to see a lot of ice start to form across this rain snow mix line here. We are going to see a ton of ice due to the perfect temperatures, the perfect ground temperatures that are in place for this area here, which could see again devastating ice amounts up to 1 inch of ice possible through a lot of these areas. Now, as we head throughout the rest of Wednesday, it's going to be 6 p.m. on Wednesday, where we could even see some strong storms here throughout the Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas, and we do have a severe threat as well down here. Well, heavy rainfall at least here throughout some of these areas, and that could be some very heavy ice amounts as that heavy rain mixes with that ice layer, which could definitely be devastating to some of those power poles, trees, and whatnot. As you can see, this goes throughout Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, and Indiana, bringing a ton amount of ice here throughout these areas, which will lead to a lot of power outages and damage. Horrible travel conditions here. This even goes throughout portions of Massachusetts and Vermont, New Hampshire there. Could see some of that ice and mix. As you can see, very heavy snowfall amounts throughout some of these areas, which will lead to possible blizzard conditions. This will be going throughout early Thursday, and a lot of the heavy snowfall amounts will really start up here midday of Wednesday, and then we head into overnight hours into Thursday. That's when a lot of that heavy snowfall will persist around the upper Midwest area, around southern Minnesota. And then we'll see a strong band of snow moving throughout the Northeast in the early morning hours of Thursday. The Euro model shows a lot of the same thing here. A ton of ice here for Michigan, as well as northern Illinois, portions of Iowa there, going to Pennsylvania and New York. So again, some very strong bands of snow here as we head throughout Thursday. We'll look at those snowfall and ice amounts here shortly. As you see, it's low pressure. That low pressure system eventually moves out by Friday there of the midday hour. For the Euro model, we can see upwards of 18 inches of snowfall here across southern Minnesota going into central Wisconsin. We can see here, we can even see upwards of a foot of snowfall in portions of the Northeast. More of those lighter pinkish colors, you're going to see upwards of 8 inches of snowfall, so near a foot of snowfall for a very widespread area here across the upper Midwest and Northeast, going to Michigan as well. GFS model pretty much has the same take on this, as we could see a little more snowfall, upwards of 20 inches, maybe localized spots, 2 feet of snowfall possible throughout southern Minnesota, southeastern South Dakota, and throughout most of central Wisconsin. Could see upwards of 18 to even 22 inches of snowfall. Here's the total freezing rain amounts here from the GFS model. This has only increased from yesterday's. As you can see, upwards of an inch of freezing rain, even more than an inch possible here throughout northern Illinois, going throughout a lot of Iowa here, more of the central parts and the southern half of Iowa. Upwards of half an inch of freezing rain. That is still a ton of freezing rain that's going to cause some devastating travel issues. Knock down power lines. You may be out of power for days throughout some of these areas because of over an inch of ice is just a very, very large amount of ice that's going to be putting strain on a lot of these things. Anything from power lines even up to traffic light poles will be straining from this ice here across these areas. Now, this might change, this might weaken. Of course, I don't expect over an inch of ice for a lot of these areas, especially from how widespread this has. And GFS model is definitely a little interesting sometimes on here. As you can see, this is more of a realistic. I expect over half an inch of ice for some of these areas, but definitely inch and a half of ice is just insane, but that definitely could happen. You definitely need to start preparing now in these areas for a potential major ice storm here later this week. Now, the NAM model has a little more of a realistic amount of ice here. As you can see, going through Iowa, upwards of a half an inch of ice, more of a quarter inch of an ice widespread. Southern Wisconsin here going with around 1/15 of an inch of ice here throughout southern Wisconsin. Northern Illinois seeing more of 1/15 of an inch of ice as well, widespread. So more realistic is what I'm expecting here throughout southern Michigan. That goes through the Detroit area. You could see upwards of 3/4 of an inch of ice, even up to an inch of ice. Over there, New York, over here near the Buffalo area, even upwards of an inch of ice as well. And through some of these areas in New York as well, upwards of 3/4 of an inch of ice. Pennsylvania not seeing much, but definitely still seeing some slick amounts of ice, maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice there. And some of these bands may lead to some ice pockets here throughout the Northeast, even some significant ice pockets throughout those areas. We are only going to get more accurate information as we get closer to this event, so stay tuned for more of these videos. Severe threat is definitely not a major right now, but as you can see, we have a marginal risk in place. Yesterday, we had a 15% chance in this area for severe thunderstorms. This has been extended a little more westward here, as we do have that marginal risk for severe thunderstorms for Wednesday. Here's the Canadian model here on this, and we can see still a lot of significant amounts of ice here, more of a narrow path of ice, but definitely still significant, going throughout, pretty much cutting Iowa in half with that ice there. Upwards of 3/4 of an inch of ice here. Southern Wisconsin, kind of the border of northern Illinois in southern Wisconsin, upwards of an inch of ice as well. As we go throughout southern Michigan, upwards of an inch of ice from this model. And then we have a lot more or less ice over here in New York. And you might see upwards of a half an inch of ice, but still a lot of these areas are going to see significant amounts of ice. Whether these models say, it just depends on where we will see these very significant amounts of ice, because again, these models do change every few hours. More accurate information will be coming soon as we get closer to this event, but take some of these amounts as a grain of salt for now, but prepare for the worst, hope for the best. But we'll keep you updated, and a new upload will come out tomorrow early afternoon, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Turn on post notifications, you won't miss a single upload or live stream on the channel. Make sure to share this video with any friends or family that may live in the path of this storm. But as always, I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.